Well, here he is, skipper of the Thunder, skipper of Queensland, Australia's number 3 for the best part of a decade. And, well, as most people know him now, star of the Test on Amazon before he went missing. I'm kidding. It's your baller, Usman Khawaja. Uzi, welcome back to the Grey Cricketer.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me again. And not skipper of Thunder, Callum Ferguson, skipper of Thunder. You're better than that. What's going on?
I listened to his last interview. They said he was dumped, wasn't he?
Yeah. Poor fella.
I was just making a presumption. I'm ahead of myself. Well, was he just a
You
start?
just made that really awkward just there, so I'm going to let that one go.
Awkwardness works. I was going to get more awkward than that, man. You're like, I wasn't sure you would agree to this chat to kick off because, like, not just because people want to ask about what happened to their favorite character in the Test doco, but also because you launched a rival podcast called Kicking It with Khawaja. And so, like,
that's where you're wrong straight away. I'm going to stop you right there. It's not a rival podcast. It's not the same as the Great Cricketer. I love what you guys do. You know, I follow you on Instagram and I love your bands. I love the fact that you say things that we're all thinking, but everyone's afraid to say. I absolutely love it. So that's my favorite part of it. Not rival at all. I actually plans to get people from other sports too, not just cricket. It's a bit of everything. So I think of it as different. I think of it as a different little niche.
Just actually on that mold. I mean, you've met some amazing people through your, development in professional cricket. I'm thinking automatically Will Smith, that, the famous, Dazzy Jeff giving the handshake at the top. Saw Paul Pierce, the truth, coming in. I mean, who are some other amazing people that you've met in the professional sports realm or celebrity life?
I think you've just named the top two, maybe. Will Smith, the Fresh Prince. Honestly, I grew up watching that guy every day from school. Absolutely loved it. I was seeing every single episode. Like, and every time that show's on, I can just mimic it. I loved that guy. Loved him afterwards. Movies, even his songs when he was younger. My brother used to have all his soundtracks, his albums, and then to finally get to see him, I was like, I'm never going to get this opportunity again. Grow some balls, was he? Walk up to him, talk to him, and I was like, sort of just looking at him from far because you're a bit starstruck. And I'm not, to be honest, I'm very rarely starstruck. Like, I've met, obviously, I think, like, we've had celebrities come in before, like, Hugh Jackman, the Wolverine, came in Lords, and I wasn't starstruck by him. He's a legend, but I went up and talked to him. He's a legend of a guy. But this time, when Will Smith, someone he looked at as a kid, I was like, I'm so glad I got the balls to go up to him. And I was like, can we do the Jazzy Jeff handshake? And he's like, yeah, sure. He just straight away just went, psh. And it was like, it was the best. It was one of my favorite, because 5 cricketing moments of my life, that's right up there in the top 5. Something you don't get to do. Oh, man. I play all the time, but you don't get to meet Will Smith every day of the week. And for him to be right there at the right time, it was just, if you told young Uzi that he's going to meet Will Smith one day, he'd be so happy.
Mate, you seem like one of these guys, like an increasing number of guys who are quite honest about the fact that, like, cricket isn't every single thing in their life. Like, even as we're preparing for this interview, you said, look, I'm going to have the Super Bowl on in the background. It sort of got me thinking, is cricket even in your top 5 favorite sports?
Depends whether I'm scoring runs or not. Look, it's cricket. I've got a love-hate relationship. I think a lot of people do. I love the game, but it is one of the great testers. It is, I call it the leveler, just like life. I think it teaches you a lot by life, because sometimes things are going well and you're on top of the world and everything's going fine, and then suddenly it's just like bang, and it knocks you down. And it just doesn't happen once. It can happen over and over and over again. And I think that's where the love-hate relationship of the game starts. And it's one game that tests you mentally like no other game. And maybe, golf. I play a lot of golf too. And I'm pretty sure the guys who play professionally as golfers would probably say similar things. And, when you get that sort of those life lessons from cricket, you realize that, there's more to it than just the game. You can't be happy or sad when you're just scoring runs. And which was the case when I was younger. If I was scoring runs, I'd be happy. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be happy. And I probably learned a lot of lessons from that growing up. So a love-hate relationship, it's probably the only game in the world where the guys are happy when it rains. Think of another game they're happy not playing. Like, you know what it's you've all been there. Anyone who's played cricket, it's the most bizarre thing, but I think it's more up here than anything else. The guys, you always have that fear of failure, no matter who you are. And then when it rains, you just relax and let your guard down a little bit. It's the only game. I say it all the time. It's such a bizarre thing, but it's true.
Yeah. Oh, we should have said this before we even got going, but you've obviously become a father recently for the first time. So congratulations. It's exciting for you. And we've seen just, recently Joe Root in the form of his life after, becoming a dad. I saw Virat Kohli's just had a kid as well. Kane Williamson, the same deal. So obviously expecting a similar trajectory of run scoring. So, I wonder, I wonder if being a father has sort of put cricket, in context for you in your life, as you're talking about just there.
To be honest, I think I probably put cricket into context probably about 5 years ago when obviously the passing of Hughesy, he was a good mate for a lot of us, put a lot of life in perspective. And then literally 2 weeks after that, I blew my knee out and did my ACL, and I was out for 9 months for the game. And to have those two things happen right next to each other, I think that's what put things in more perspective than anything. And sometimes you forget about it. You get caught in the cricket bubble because cricket is life. Like, we love the game. As I said, we love the game, we hate the game, but I love the game. I love the game. So I want to do well, and I'm highly competitive, just like everyone else. And you want to win games and you want to score runs. And then when both those things aren't happening, it can be pretty tough. So you've got to remember to then find that perspective again. So I'm, really big, as I've talked about before, about being mindful, trying to stay in the present as much as I can, because cricket, we put so much time and effort into it. It can take you away from it a little bit. Start worrying about losing games performances, as I mentioned earlier. So the perspective I had 5 years ago with obviously the two things I talked about, that probably was the biggest thing. And I always try to find my way back. And Rachel, my wife, is always really good at that. She can normally see when things are slipping a little bit. She always brings me back a little bit. I pray a fair bit. I play golf. I've got lots of things in my life that I like to come back to try to even it out, whether, as I said earlier, whether I'm scoring runs or not scoring runs, winning games or not winning games. I try to not let the cricket be the end all and let it dictate my life to a way, even though sometimes it can, because we love the game, we take it seriously.
Sounds very sensible. Like you just mentioned the bubble earlier. How's it been trading like precious months with your family, including your dog LeBron, for months inside various hotels, listening to Sam Billings talk about his dad's alleged helicopter?
Has Bilbo been on this show before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. I'm glad he has, because I didn't want to sledge him if he hadn't been on there before. I actually asked him. He was funny. I really got along well with Bilbo. And all this time, I never really met him, but all I heard, as he said, about his helicopter and his family, and I sort of like just worked my way into it. We sort of got into like this really good conversation, and I've had some really good conversation with Bilbo. He's got a lot of good perspective on life and cricket. But it just sort of, we got into this conversation. I just came out with it straight away, went straight to his family. So are you loaded or not? And he was like, whoa, he's like taken back a little bit by it. But the way he handles himself, you would never know where, what his background, what his family is, because he's such a down-to-earth bloke. That's the most important thing. And the fact that I had to ask him that question, I think speaks more for him than anything else.
Yeah. Another English guy who sort of dominated the BBL this year. In fact, I think he actually was the second MVP or second rated in the Big Bash this year. Alex Hales, am I right in saying? Did he come second in the yeah?
He did well. He did well.
He did well. Hits a clean ball. Clearly, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about him getting back into the England setup. If his performances warrant that. I mean, the question that we all want to know is, I mean, how loose is he?
Big Bass. I think he might have been a lot looser than he is now. He's pretty straight. He's pretty down the line now. He's also a legend of the bloke, and I think someone has matured a fair bit. Big Bass. I always make fun of him because he's got, if you see old photos of him, he's clean skinned. He's all like got this like image. Now he's got the tats on him and all this. And I'm like, you're 10% tougher if you have tats. And he's like, yeah, I am. I know. We have a joke about it all the time. Like, see, for me, I always say, if a bowler bowls me, I cover drive and smack him for 4. The bowler's like, yeah, okay, it's 4. If someone bowls to him and he cover drives him for 4, they're like, oh shit, look at those tats. Yeah, this guy's scary. He's coming at me. It's just that intimidating factor that he's got about him now. I think it's elevated his game at least 10%.
I think you did really well to like paint a picture of what the modern player is like, and it always like contrasts with players of old. Like, there's that famous one from a couple of years ago where you're commentating on, I think it's a T20 international or something. And like you say, the game's changed a bit in the last 10 or so years. You sometimes feel like there's a disconnect between what the players are trying to achieve and what the outside world or traditionalists or former players are seeing. And you were just talking about that in relation to sweeps and paddles, like in the game. But like how, can you tell us like how much does that idea extend to life and cricket beyond that, you know? Like, do you feel like there's a disconnect between former players and the way the older generations do it and the sort of newer style player, or what?
There is a disconnect in the guys, I guess, to some extent, who have played T20s and haven't. I mean, I played one day. The one day is obviously, just like a lot of the older guys played a lot of one days, but it's not the same game as T20. The strategy is different. The pressure is a little bit different. How you're trying to score runs is a little bit different. I mean, it's not easy being, obviously anyone's been out in the middle of a T20 game. It's a very different beast. And when, as a batsman, you know, you hear a lot, you know, just stand there and play good shots, but it's not that easy. Like, it's like we have a running joke with the boys at Queensland when, you know, you're trying to set a total on day 4 and they're like, oh, boys, yeah, just get 7 and 8 without taking a risk. And you're like, how do you do that? Like, I don't think that's entirely possible. That's the same way T20 cricket. It's very hard to score at 10s without taking calculated risks. There's only some days where you can go out and just blast everything. It comes out of the middle and you miss all the fielders somehow and you're just on fire. But that doesn't happen every day. So that's where the innovation comes a little bit into it, and you're trying to work out the game. And then you have to take calculated risk. And the thing with this, I say this to my wife all the time, but she doesn't get it either. So when you take a good risk, like hitting a big 6 and it comes off, it looks so easy. You do the same thing, it doesn't come off, and you sky one in the air. You're like, oh, why are you doing that? It's, you know, it's all about the execution. So obviously, we were talking about Baz before earlier, Alex Hales. He did it beautifully. He made it look easy. But I'm telling you, being on the other end, he was taking a lot of calculated risks in his innings. He was hitting the ball over top. One of them shanked away. He was out, but he was actually just hitting the middle of the bat all the time. So, I mean, extremely quality player. When you're going like he was, you got to cash in because it's not an easy game. You can actually get caught out a little bit when you aren't scoring runs. So, to your question earlier, I think, you know, if there's an opportunity in England, you know, he's obviously made, you know, a couple of mistakes in the past, but he's a legend of a bloke. We love having him with Thunder, and I'd love to see him in the English side too.
Do you reckon it's like a double-edged sword being a player that's kind of come into the Aussie setup or the national setup, like kind of 10 years off the back of basically one of the greatest, if not the greatest team of all time, you know? And so these guys are still kind of in charge of Australian cricket or have a lot of power in Australian cricket, and perhaps their openness to like the game evolving or different ways of players doing things or being is a bit harder for them to kind of open themselves to, and that the way they did it is kind of the way to do it. You know, is that something players you're, you know, in your cohort have to deal with, or do you feel like it's that actually some of them are quite open to new ways of doing stuff?
Some are, some aren't. Look, I've got so much respect for the guys that came before us. Honestly, it doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't really matter how they carry on to it. If they're commentators and I don't particularly agree with them at times, I still have a lot of respect for the past players. So, you know, they've done obviously great things for the game. They scored runs. But as I said, there's some that sort of evolve and try to learn about the game and watch the game a fair bit. And then you can tell that others that don't do that as much. You can tell by the way they talk that they just haven't stayed in touch with the game as much. And I'm a big believer that the game has never gone backwards. I mean, I watch footage from 30 years ago. I watch footage from 20 years ago. I love watching old footage. I'm always watching old footage, whether it's on Fox Sports or, you know, on YouTube, looking at old Benson Hedges series one days. The game has evolved. The game has got better. The game has gotten better from 10 years ago. And then even when I stop playing, whenever that is, the game will get better 10 years after I retire. I'm a realist. The game's not going to go backwards. It gets better all the time. And I think sometimes the older players think the game hasn't gotten better and they're stuck in this. I don't know what game, sporting event in the world which hasn't gotten better. You know, you look at athletics, running, swimming, anything, basketball, the game has changed. The game's got better. Take basketball for an example. No one used to shoot threes 20, 30 years ago. Now that's pretty much the game. You have to be able to spread the ball. If you're not, you just don't win these days. So the game has improved in cricket from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I'm a realist. I'm sure I laugh all the time. Like kids will be looking at Usman Khawaja and going, oh, look at that idiot play. Look at that technique. What's he doing there? They'll do the same thing. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing. And I'm a realist and I understand that'll happen. So hopefully when I start playing, I'll stay in touch with the game. I'll watch I think I will because I love the game, and hopefully try to stay in touch with it as much as possible. But you mentioned, like, to be honest, first name that comes to my name, Ricky Ponting, hasn't probably played for about 10 years now, but he's in touch with the game. When I talk to him about cricket, he knows exactly what's going on, what teams are trying to do, how to bowl to certain players, what T20 cricket is about. And that's from a guy who hadn't played a lot of T20 cricket either. So you can tell he watches a lot of cricket and he loves the game. And I think, those kind of things really stick out.
You're talking there about, basketball, especially and on the great YouTube program, Hot Ones. I'm not sure if you've across that one on YouTube, but there's a segment there called Explain That Gram. And I was just going through some of your social media history, as is my want. And I do put them most weeks, to be fair. August 13 last year, you posted a photo of you batting in a Rodman Bulls jersey. Can you please explain that? And did you go to Vegas during the BBL finals?
I can't explain. I used to love the Bulls as a kid, and I think I got that jersey about 4 or 5. I got three jerseys, so I just got the Pippen, Rodman, Jordan collection as I would about 5 years ago when I was on this like extreme jersey hunt. I was signing all. I've got this old Hakeem Olajuwon jersey which I haven't bought out. I've got all these jerseys just sitting in my room which I haven't bought out. So I had a bit of a jersey fetish, and that's all it was. And it was a trial match, practice match. And everyone takes it too seriously. I remember we had 2 separate teams. I think Joey Burns was on the other team. He's always straight down the line, Joey. So we were like, oh, what are we wearing tomorrow? And I was just looking, I'm like, I was captain of one team. And I think maybe Jim Pearson was captain of the other. But I was like, I reckon our team might wear basketball jerseys, actually. He's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, why not? He's like, you have to wear proper cricket shirts. I'm like, why? It's a practice game. He's like, no, you have to wear cricket. And they just wanted me to do it more. So I'm like, no, we're all wearing basketball. Everyone's coming in basketball jerseys tomorrow. So all our team wore basketball jerseys, and all his team were like the old traditionalist, boring collared shirts. So that's where it happened. That's how it happened.
Yeah. I love the idea that like American sports just seem to be cooler generally. I know you're a big Westbrook guy as well. But I also there's a great photo going around talking about jerseys. There's you, Zampa, and Steve Smith in Times Square. And you're all wearing the Australian ODI like canary yellow kit. I mean, talk about cool. Zampa's wearing black shoes, of course he is. Was that the coolest moment of your life?
I'd be embarrassed, but the fact was no one knew who the hell we were anyway, so it didn't make a difference. People dress up in Times Square all the time. You got some random Spider-Man, so people thought we were probably like bananas in pajamas or some shit like that. I don't know. Honestly, no one even looked twice at us. I mean, it was embarrassing when I first. I'm like, we can't be walking around here in an Aussie kid. We look like wankers. And then we were walking, and no one was looking at us twice. I'm like, this must be normal in New York. We're fine. So, it's something that not many people can say. They walk through Times Square in their Aussie kit, full kit wanker. I did it. Thank you very much.
Bucket list tick. You're talking about Queensland stuff earlier, Aussie, and I'm just thinking there's just a debate going on at the moment. I'm just thinking on the one hand, you've played 44 tests, 154 first-class matches, 12,000 runs all up. You have a bachelor's degree in aviation, qualified pilot. You got your own foundation looking after youth, refugee, immigrants, Indigenous, rural, remote. Help there through education, and you're the captain of Queensland. And on the other hand, Marnus is younger, and because Cummins is a bowler, maybe Marnus can be Aussie captain, so he should be Queensland captain. So we're that's the way I pretty much see the debate. Do you feel Marnus down your neck?
Old toilet burrito Marnus, eh? Actually, he's just toasty Marnus. He's toasty Marnus at the moment, isn't he? He's upgraded from toilet. He's upgraded. Hog pile, hog. We have called him Hog a few times too. So he's gone for. He's got more nicknames than anyone in the world for right reason. He puts it on himself, doesn't he? He actually. It's so funny when I saw that toasty thing. JL didn't mention any names at the start, but I was straight on the text and I was like, "That is 100% you." And he was like, yeah, of course it was me. Who do you think it was? And I was just in stitches. I knew straight away. That's Marnus right there, old toasty gate. So, no, look, he's a terrific player. I get along with him really well. But I think there's, at the moment he's playing such good cricket. Everything's going well. I'd be mindful of not putting too much on his plate. I also think there's more to captaincy than just scoring runs. And he's young. He's developing. He's maturing, but I think there's still a bit left in him in terms of a leadership role. But who knows, maybe further down the track, he can be Aussie captain. I mean, if he's playing the way he is consistently for a long period of time, number one and foremost is you lead from the front and you gain respect from the field. So if he's doing that for a long time, who knows? But at the moment, I think you'd like him to just keep scoring runs.
We're trying to figure out more about these Indian players after they've just completely, decimated Australian cricket for the next century or so. And also we're trying to buy beach houses. And you obviously played in the IPL in 2016 for Pune. And you actually captured your contribution to that tournament by posting a photo of Adam Sandler's Waterboy. So while you were there, Ajinkya Rahane was there, who obviously captained magnificently for India during the series just here. Can you tell us a little bit about Jinx? What's Jinx Rahane about?
Jinx Rahane he's literally just a normal everyday bloke. He's a really nice guy. He's a good cricketer. He ran me out in the second game. I still haven't forgiven that second game of my IPL. He ran me out. I'm still blowing up about that. I was smacking him at Bangalore. It's the flattest wicket in the world. I think I was on about 15 off about 5 rocks or something. I was on fire and then he ran me out. I haven't forgiven him for that. But other than that, he's an absolute legend. He's so nice. You can't get angry. Honestly, you can't stay angry at him. Yeah. And that's him. What do you see on the field? He seems like a really nice, he's got great sportsmanship, just genuine bloke. He is exactly like that off the field. Some guys honestly, I can't offer you much because he's so down the line. He's just such a good bloke.
That's what I'm trying to figure out because we say this about the New Zealand players as well. There's got to be some skeletons there because they're so nice.
Yeah, the New Zealanders, we call them the fake nice guys. So Adam, we call him Milne, but Alan Milne was at Thunder. Yeah. And he was like it's the New Zealand, the nice guy. And he was the first 2 weeks he was there and I was chipping away at him, trying to get him to buy and all this stuff. And he bit a couple of times. And then after 2 weeks, the real Milne came out. He was like trying to bite back and he was firing up. He's blowing up on the field. And I'm like, man, you New Zealanders are all the same. You're all fake nice guys. You're like, yeah, I'm all nice. I'm New Zealander. And then when the cameras are off, you're blowing up at something, you're sledging someone. And I like that. And I like that because you can't all be like, you don't trust someone too nice. You can't trust him.
You can't trust him.
You can't trust him. So,
I mean, as we all know, like cricket's not about runs and wickets. It's about, what's he like as a bloke. That's pretty much the main thing we're interested in. So like, I'm just thinking about the test now. And like on the one hand, you got JL, saying about you, like we've got enormous respect and love for each other. Like I put that out not to disappoint anyone, keeps coming back. All the boys are on eggshells and stuff. And then on another view, like you made these comments and the next scene could have just been a black screen saying RIP Usman Khawaja, he was never seen again. So like, JL, what's he like as a bloke? If you had your time again, would you have said those things?
Yeah, 100%. I think honestly, we get along really well. I get asked this all the time. Yeah, we get along. We actually do get along really well. People see, but you got to remember what you see. I haven't seen the Takes documentary, but I've heard a bit of like what's obviously there when it happened. You only see a bits of what's happened. Like it's hard to get context. I mean, you get some of the context, but then you wouldn't have seen the conversation I had with him the next day. Or the one that happened in Dubai, that was only a snip. The actual blow-up was a lot better, to be honest, too. I seen that snippet, and the actual blow-up was a lot better than that. It was a big one, went for about 5 minutes. But literally, he came after, we had lunch after that, and he came and sat down next to me, and we chatted after that, and we were fine. So I actually think JL respected me more because I spoke to him, honestly, and he knew that I wasn't talking shit behind his back or whinging or anything. I always just went up to him and just chatted to him. I think that actually helped me. At the end of the day, there's a lot more to selection than, what meets the eye. There's a bit happening. Unfortunately, I got dropped after the Headingley test match, which was my last test match. And what a, shit fight that was in the last day. Stokesy doing what he did. We lost a test match we should have won. Unfortunately, someone had to be dropped, and at the time was me. That we won that test match, I don't think I would have been dropped, and things could have happened differently. But I'm not really in the belief of ifs and buts. I just think things happen the way they happen, and that's the way it's meant to be. But to your old question, me and Jay will get along well. He's an intense bloke. There's no denying that. But I know what he's like. I think the guys know what he's like, and I think the only reason that these issues are coming up now is because we lost to India. That's the main issue. And at the same time, we're allowed to lose against India. I mean, we're playing test match cricket here. Yes, we have a really good record against it, but I mean, what's the point of playing test matches if the other team can't beat you? I mean, that's the whole point of test matches. Now, I guess the big question is we got to do the same thing in their backyard, which we haven't been able to do for a long time. So, and we have done that before. So, that's test cricket.
Hey, it was interesting, Uzi, there you're talking about Headingley, and when we're talking to Pana, our close personal friend Ricky Ponting, he was saying that he gets asked about
good name drop.
Yeah. I can't Pana, but people probably know who that is. Yeah. And he was just talking about how the 2005 Ashes series, he gets asked about that all the time, and it's obviously a series that he lost, but I think a lot of those guys who played in that series have sort of come around to the sort of point of view that I'm really glad that I got to be a part of that. I mean, I wonder if you have got there yourself, maybe about part of that Headingley test, not because it's obviously the last test that you've played so far in your career, but just that monumentous occasion of how amazing that test match actually was. I guess what I'm asking is, how do you feel about the test match now?
Nah, shit test match. What are you talking about? We should have won that, Tell. It still kills me. Nah, not at all. I wanted to win that test match really badly. Honestly, it was an unbelievable innings. He put pressure on us. He put pressure on Paney as a captain. I think Paney learned a bit about how that strategic wise, at least from that being in the same position there again. Even having that DRS, calling for that DRS, and the ball was way down leg, that was a panic decision. And that can happen. That's the pressure of Test cricket. It can get anyone. So I think all credit to Stokesy. That's an innings you're not going to see an innings like that for a very long time. Yeah. So no, it wasn't one of those ones yet. Well, maybe in my end of my career, it might be. At the moment, it's still, we should have won that Test match. It's really frustrating we didn't.
Yeah.
And then we've had the India series, and like throughout the series, there was opportunities there, for a middle order bat, for an opening bat. So many of our guys, including yourself, are stuck away playing in the BBL. It's hard to put your hand up, to be the guy scoring runs to knock on that door. I note that, you were the emergency replacement for the now postponed South Africa tour. Where's your head at in relation to the Australian side? How much more juice is in the tank for Uzi?
There's still juice left. I'm still really motivated to play for Australia. I want to play Test cricket again, but I'm not going to do it unless I score runs in Shield cricket and do well for my team. And I think the motivation right now is all we have is Shield cricket. So, I'd love to win a Sheffield Shield. I've been involved in 2 teams that have won Sheffield Shields, but I've been away for Australian duty, so I've missed the opportunity to actually be in a Sheffield Shield winning side per se. I'd love to do that. And if I'm doing that and I'm contributing for Queensland and I'm scoring, I'll give myself the best chance to be selected again for Australia. I felt like I was really close this time, but who knows what can happen in 8 months' time is probably when the next Test series is. I think back in Australia, a lot can happen between then. I'm still very motivated. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to do extras. I'm trying to do the things I need to do that I feel like I need to do to perform my best. And if I do that and it happens, awesome. And if it doesn't, at least I can say I did everything that I could do. And that's all you can really do as a player.
Uzi, thanks so much for your time, mate. I know you got to get back to the Super Bowl. I think Tampa Bay is sort of running away with it, but you got to watch that. It's one of my favorites.
I was going to watch it. I saw the exact same thing. It was a drubbing. So I'm like, nah, I don't need to watch it anymore. back to the NBA. I'm one of those NFL guys anyway. Just watch the Super Bowl. I don't watch anything else in the season. Just watch the Super Bowl. But the NBA, at least I watch it. So yeah.
All right. Cheers, Uzi.
Fake fan. Cheers, boys.